The hell are you doing out? Take a trip with me, guys, back to 1992, when the world was rocked by a virtual phenomenon simply known as... Yeah, that's the good stuff. The video game of violence and vulgarity that brought to us at the time the most lifelike and realistic animation on a video game console at the time to our local arcades and every single bowling alley in town. The blood-spraying, bone-crunching action mixed with the pulse-pumping synth soundtrack that would make you almost want to rip out your own spine. To call it controversial is a bit of an understatement, because just like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and the Gremlins forced the MPAA to create the PG-13 rating, Mortal Kombat almost single-handedly, with some help from Night Trap, was the basis for establishing the ESRB, or the Entertainment Software Rating Board. This little bad boy was the bane of some of our existences when we were younger, because we really wanted the game, but our parents wouldn't let us get it, so you either had to wait till you were older, or do what I did, and just ask your unknowing grandfather or uncle to get it for you. Mortal Kombat has since become a worldwide phenomenon and becoming a standard bearer in the fighting game genre, with over 15 titles in its series and spanning over 85 different playable characters throughout the game's history. Some of the main characters of the series have become just as recognizable as Mario or Sonic or your favorite wrestler or cartoon character. Like, people that don't know anything about wrestling will know Hulk Hogan and John Cena. Just like this, if no one's ever picked up a Mortal Kombat game before, I could show them this picture, and even my mom would say, "Oh, that's the Sub-Zero guy, he freezes stuff." So with that brief history lesson over, any of you guys want to do an episode about Mortal Kombat? Yes, we're a little busy at the moment. We're a little busy. You sucker! I don't even know why I tried. We're doing Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Yo, what's up, Jay?
What it is, Steely.
Glad you're back, dog.
Oh, so you wanna roll with Steely Mo? The only dude on the mic with a killer flow. He get his dough and they all wanna kill him slow, but he gon' take you for a ride.
So here we go.
Oh, so you wanna roll with Steely Mo? The only dude on the mic with a killer flow. He get his dough and they all wanna kill him slow, but he gon' take you for a ride.
So here we go.
Oh, so you wanna roll with Steely Mo? The only dude on the mic with a killer flow. He get his dough and they all wanna kill him slow, but he gon' take you for a ride.
So here we go.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jay.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Steely's Corner. This is episode 13. That's right, the video game franchise phenomenon that has been a part of everyone's living room around the world and a staple on Saturday night sleepovers for decades. This video game juggernaut is celebrating by releasing its 11th installment of the game with its Ultimate Edition and the release of the new motion picture simply titled Mortal Kombat. Not sure if it's a remake or a sequel or a reboot. Wish they had a word for that. Let's face it, guys. It's a reboot. See? I told you it was a thing. Anyway, this week we're going to do a Mortal Kombat-centric episode. We're going to be taking a look at a portion of WCW's history directly influenced by the Bloodsport game itself. For our Pop of the Week, I've got a very interesting road story to tell you how I acquired our little demon from Outworld back here. We're also going to take a look at some of the guest appearances that have made its way into Mortal Kombat's roster. And finally, we're going to round the episode out by reviewing the 1995 original film, Mortal Kombat. I do prefer the sequel. I use it to torture people when I'm trying to get information out of them. I mean, I watch it with the kids. Before I enter the blood code and show you guys all this brutality, I need you to get over here and smash that like button, test your might, and crush that subscribe button and share this flawless victory with all your friends so we can help geek culture come to life. Here we go. In 1996, during the infancy of the Monday Night Wars, World Championship Wrestling and the World Wrestling Federation were going head-to-head for ratings supremacy. But WCW decided to dip its pool inside the media stream and try to cash in on the success of an almost year-old movie, Mortal Kombat, but it was also on the coattails and the horizon of the Ultimate Edition of the third installment of the game series franchise, Mortal Kombat 3. The Atlanta-based wrestling company decided to give us a rip-off Wish.com watered-down version of Sub-Zero, known to us better as Glacier. Did you guys know that Sub-Zero is the only character in the entire Mortal Kombat franchise that has appeared in every single game? Yep, in the first game we played the original Sub-Zero, Bi-Han, but he was killed by the hands of Scorpion in storyline. From there on, we played his brother who took up the mantle of Sub-Zero, Kuai Liang. Thank you, Terry. Leave the facts to me, buddy. So WCW president and head of creative at the time, Eric Bischoff, who himself was a highly decorated black belt in the martial arts and an enthusiast of the craft, tapped amateur wrestler and also fourth-degree black belt Ray Lloyd to portray the Snowman Ninja, sending him down to the ring with a rip-off version of Mortal Kombat's main theme with lasers and smoke and blue lighting that would make a Turkish brothel blush. And of course, a couple 100 pounds of fake snow. The gimmick cost over $400,000 to portray a character that audience really wasn't connecting with. $35,000 of that alone went to his garish and blatantly rip-off version of Sub-Zero's costume, and on top of that, it was $10,000 each to pay 3 different technicians to do his entrance alone. So it cost the company $30,000 every time they wanted the blue lights and lasers and the fake snow and the brothel lighting. So they tried to book him very strong, but it was almost like he was off in his own little corner of WCW at the time because he wasn't really interacting with any of the main event players. But regardless, they gave him a Goldberg-esque winning streak. He could not be beaten, no matter who came against him. That was their plan, because they had huge plans for this guy, no matter what.
But it all was bullshit. It was a goddamn joke.
He was the most expensive gimmick on the entire roster, so you would think, since they sunk that much money and time to it, he would have a main big starring role on Monday Night Nitro, right? No? All those vignettes they ran for months of blood running cold and everyone should beware with the crappy techno music, surely that should get you a spot on Thursday Night Thunder, their second biggest show, right? No. Okay, maybe they were saving him for a pay-per-view. Starrcade was coming up, maybe Bash at the Beach. No, none. They released him and did his debut match on the very obscure WCW Wrestling Worldwide premiere against his arch nemesis. I'm kidding, it was by some wrestler known as the Gambler? Who? He faced who?
Live today, you can feel a real special smell in the air, and we are talking about the anticipation.
Is he wearing a tuxedo with no slacks? Ugh. Looks like a ass-backwards Chippendale dancer. Ugh. Now, I know wrestling's a silly thing, but you mean to tell me they sent out their most expensive and time-consuming character on their most obscure and least viewed show against essentially Maverick with no pants on? What the hell were you guys smoking? Wait, hey, what do they got? Are they willing to share? As I said, the first Sub-Zero died and later became the Black Palette Swap Ninja and Master of Soul Trapping, Noob Saibot, which name actually came from the creators. John Tobias and Ed Boon flipped their last names around to give you Noob Saibot. That's pretty cool. Okay, I'll stop. WCW launched this whole Glacier experiment into full drive and unleashed the other two players in this game. Two other Mortal Kombat-esque rip-off characters to be his arch nemesises, dressed basically in very expensive S&M gear. They gave us Mortis and Wrath. Easy, boys.
So what's going on here? An orgy or something? Maybe a funeral, dickhead.
With Wrath being a Shao Kahn kind of ripoff, he was portrayed by veteran wrestler Brian Clark, who we may remember as Adam Bomb from WWF. And Mortis, who was a mashup of Reptile and Scorpion kind of just mushed together, was portrayed by the very underrated, in my opinion, Chris Kanyon. Unfortunately, the feud started fizzling out after only 3 months, 2 different pay-per-view appearances, and just a bunch of matches where they all just randomly fought each other. But they didn't fight anybody else! After time, Glacier started to completely melt. He never saw the main event, and he kept getting put lower and lower down the card. He barely even made it through the mid-card, till he just basically became a puddle and a shadow of his former glory for the top dogs to mow down on their way to victory. And I hate to say it, but this whole gimmick was kind of doomed from the beginning. The very first time that we saw the vignette for Blood Runs Cold, before we even knew what it was the exact same night that Scott Hall jumped over the barricade at Monday Night Nitro and declared war on WCW, thus launching the biggest wrestling angle in professional wrestling's history, the birth of the New World Order, the NWO. Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Hulk Hogan. You think Frosty the Ice Bitch really stood a chance against any of this? You can't really mix ice and fire together. You're just gonna get water. And that was pretty much what was left, because at the end of the day, Ray Lloyd was still putting his blood, sweat, and tears into the gimmick. Actually, he's still doing it today. At age 59, he is still wrestling in independent shows and bringing back the whole iceberg gimmick. It's a nickname they came up with him since he's still portraying Glacier, but so far on the indies, he has an undefeated streak. So, Goldberg, Iceberg, I don't know, it was silly. Really sad that somebody that nice and dedicated to the craft got treated so poorly. I'm sorry, Snowman, but your career was a
fatality.
Test your mic. Test your mic. AJ, it's not test your mic. It's test your might, like your might, your strength. Oh. Yeah, don't make that mistake again. My mic works just fine. Mother. It's the mic that needs batteries. Mortal Kombat's got some pretty wild backstories mixed into its mythology. For instance, let's take a look at one of the main female protagonists, Kitana. Kitana was the princess of a realm known as Edenia, one of the main 9 realms in Mortal Kombat's history. Then, at one point, the evil emperor of Outworld, Shao Kahn, decided to invade, murder her father, take her mother Sindel as his bride, and adopt her as his own child. Rebelling and running away from the Emperor after he had taken her realm, she retreats to the realm of Earth to help the mortals fend off the oncoming onslaught of Outworld, basically to try to help them not suffer the same fate as her place. But because the Emperor wanted a daughter so badly, Shao Kahn decided to take Kitana's DNA and mix that with the DNA of a Tarkatan, a race of vicious, ravenous, crazy, sharp razor teeth looking creatures that he had already put down. Perfect example would be Baraka. Ugh, he's butch. Mixing those two together, he created himself a clone daughter that he could love for his own, and she could be the princess of New Edenia. All that said, we get Mileena. Ugh, she's butch. She's kind of pretty and kind of scary at the same time. Now, the reason that I went through that to show you this is, well, there's a pretty interesting backstory to how I actually acquired this pop. When I was planning to do this episode, I realized I didn't have a pop for Mortal Kombat. Thought I did, I was wrong. I've got almost 200 of these bad boys at this point, so it's getting a little difficult to keep track of. Anyway, started my search at my normal place, which is GameStop. After running to a couple different GameStops, one of the guys were nice enough to give me a list of stores that still had this figure in stock. Started telling him about the show, he seemed like he was really into it, and ended up giving me this bad boy, which is going to be used for an upcoming episode for Resident Evil. My search continues, 2 other GameStops, no luck, but still spreading the word about the show, why the urgency for the pop was. I decided to stop into a place called Collector's Corner, which this place is awesome if you've never been there. If you live here locally to me, it is one of the best and last bastions of geek culture. Everything, comic books, video games, vintage action figures, Funko Pops, you name it, they got it. Got in there, asked them if they had anything. They said, nope, don't really, sorry. My phone died. I could not find my location to the next GameStop. Even though I wasn't buying anything there, the guys were nice enough to look up the directions for me to the next stop that I was trying to get to. Even one of them subscribed to the show. It was really outstanding, guys. So, long story short, I get to the last GameStop, which was on Taylor Avenue, and they had one left. The guy there was so nice to me. The entire staff was fantastic. Made sure I got this bad boy. The guy asked me what it was for, and I told him about the show. Him and about 3 other people that were in line all started checking out the channel. Just makes me feel good to bring up things about brotherhood and fellowship inside the geek culture community, because anywhere else these guys could have cared less if I got a pop. But these guys knew that I was the real deal, and I knew they were the real deal too. So I had a pretty awesome experience, saw some goodwill towards men, and added another freaky deaky pop to my collection. So, on with the combat. Alright, I'm the challenger, so my pick. I picked Mortal Kombat 11, with all the action heroes in it. No, I won. That's why we're going to play Mortal Kombat XL. It's got all the great movie monsters in it. Predator, Alien, Leatherface, Jason. Definitely movie monsters. No, 80s action heroes. Movie monsters. Heroes. Monsters. Heroes. Monsters. Heroes. Heroes. Monsters. Damn it! Gotcha. Over the years, Mortal Kombat has immersed itself into pop culture. The characters appearing in everything from lunchboxes, to cereal, to action figures, to their catchphrases and characters being brought up or quoted in movies and TV shows.
No one believes I beat the last level of Mortal Kombat.
Because that's just ridiculous. No one beats Sub-Zero.
Mortal Kombat Mania has been running for decades, and since it embraced pop culture started to embrace it, as they began to funnel in some of the biggest action stars from the 1980s and some of the most gruesome horror icons from the same decade to build up their roster with guest appearances. So in typical Steely's Corner fashion, we're going to take an in-depth look at each one of these awesome characters that have made their way to spill a couple of pints of blood during the tournament to save Earthrealm. Freddy Krueger, Mortal Kombat 9. As one of the only guest characters in Mortal Kombat 9 alongside Kratos from God of War, Freddy Krueger was a very interesting addition indeed. With the aesthetics and look of Jackie Earle Haley's portrayal of Freddy Krueger in the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street, they did, however, to manage to get Robert Englund to do all of the voice dubbing for the character inside of the game, which was pretty freaking awesome. Also notable change to this character was not just one razor glove, but 2 razor gloves during the fight. I guess they wanted to try to balance out the combat since he isn't really a physically imposing guy. Great, now Freddy's got 2 sets of finger knives. Jason Voorhees, Mortal Kombat X and Mortal Kombat XL. I'm sad to report that there was no chance for us to play Freddy versus Jason, which seemed like the perfect opportunity. Damn it, they were 1 game away. But this Jason is pretty cool, modeled after Kane Hodder, who we all agree played best Jason. He stalks his enemies very slowly and also has a pretty cool ability that when he is killed, he gets resurrected because Jason could frickin' never die. And just like Scorpion and Noob Saibot, Jason has a teleport, and I love me some teleporting characters. Leatherface, Mortal Kombat X and Mortal Kombat XL. Leatherface, we actually get to play frickin' Leatherface. I do believe the only other time we got to play Leatherface as a character was during the Atari game of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where the chainsaw was part of his torso, or maybe that was his... Never mind, we're not getting into that. Anyway, Mortal Kombat X, you actually get to play the skin face mask wearing maniac that wields a chainsaw. You also get to bash people in the head with a mallet. Good times! The Xenomorph, Mortal Kombat X and Mortal Kombat XL. Wow, you actually get to play the character from Alien. This is kind of nice. Not since Alien Colonial Marines did you actually get to control a Xenomorph, and as you change some of the characteristics, you actually change what the Xenomorph looks like, from either standing on two legs or being one of the more primal versions that walked on all fours. But the coolest thing I think about this character is one of its fatalities. It launches a face hugger out and lays an egg inside of the opponent. When the egg hatches and bursts out of their stomach like the iconic scene from the original Alien, little baby takes the characteristics of whomever you shot the face hugger into. So let's say they shot it at Jason Voorhees. The little alien's got a mask on. It's pretty wild.
Bring us some water! Water my ass! Bring this guy some Pepto-Bismol! Oh no. Not again.
Predator, Mortal Kombat X and Mortal Kombat XL. Well, we did get one famous matchup at least. We got Alien versus Predator. Now, you can play him with the armor on, or you can take the mask off and see those crazy Mandarin jaws that just look like they're gonna bite your whole face off. I always thought that thing looked like a spider. But I think the best addition that they decided to put in was the Predator's plasma cannon. No Predator warrior could be found without rolling around with that bad boy. It's awesome. Rambo, Mortal Kombat 11. That's right, they got Sly Stallone to come back. Sorry. They got Sly Stallone to give them his likeness and his voice to bring back the 80s action hero himself, First Blood, the Green Beret, John Rambo. Using an assortment of traps and hiding in the bush, you can even outfit him in his world-famous burlap sack, but always with his bandana tied around his head and his trusty Bowie knife at the ready. He will be your worst nightmare. Terminator, the T-800, Mortal Kombat 11. Well, we don't necessarily get Arnold versus Stallone, but we do get Rambo versus the Terminator, as Arnold gave his likeness, but unfortunately could not give us his voice. I guess maybe it was too much thick accents in one game for us. It is a pretty cool aesthetic to see Arnold Schwarzenegger going against Sylvester Stallone in a video game. Dressed in the authentic leather outfit with the sunglasses and shotgun at the ready, you can even get to a point where they lose the fake skin and you are fighting the metal-coated robot himself. Fighting a metal skeleton is just freaking cool. RoboCop, Mortal Kombat 11. Well, to round out this trio of 80s action stars, we've already had Rambo, and we've had the Terminator. How about RoboCop? Not since the Genesis days have I ever played RoboCop versus the Terminator, but now I get to do it in this generation's graphics. With his catchphrases and guns shooting out of his thigh holster spinning around his finger, he begs them to make their move, creep, and dead or alive, you're coming with him. It is so cool to be able to mix and match those dream matchups that we always had. Rambo usually wins, though. I salute you, Mr. John Rambo. America. And finally, Spawn, Mortal Kombat 11. Whatever it is, it's butch. Spawn is no stranger to being a guest character in a fighting game. Besides, he was in Soul Calibur 2 for, I believe, the original Xbox. Spawn is a hella cool character. They even got Keith David to reprise his role because he did the vocals for Spawn during Todd McFarlane's TV cartoon show on HBO late night, way back in the mid-90s. So it was awesome to hear Spawn and see Spawn the way that we remember him. And besides, he wasn't just a comic book character, he had a big 90s hit action movie. It was produced by New Line Cinema. In the 90s, New Line Cinema. I wonder if there was any other crazy off-the-wall movies they made in the, mid to late 90s. Oh, they made one that I can think of. And let me guess, he's going to forget to mention that the Joker was an included character in Mortal Kombat 11. Do you know how I know you're dumb? How? Because you can't figure out which clown you want to pretend to be from week to week. Well, do you know how I know you're dumb? How? You're based on a character that hasn't been relevant in 3 years. Well, do you want to know how I know you're dumb? How? Because I asked your mom on her way out last night. You son of a...
In each of us, there burns the fury of a warrior. In every generation, a few are chosen to prove it.
One of you three will decide the outcome of the tournament.
3 strangers will travel to the mystical realm of Outworld to defend our people against Shang Tsung.
You will die.
And his forces of darkness.
So with the new movie out, I thought it would be nice for us to actually take a step back and review the original Mortal Kombat that came out in 1995 from New Line Cinema. This movie was controversial, to say the least, but not for the reasons that most people would think. You would think that a game that was shrouded in such controversy about blood and guts and language and vulgarity and misogyny and just destruction that got parents and teachers and politicians in such an uproar would be an NC-17 or a hard R. Christ, every game that's come out in the series has had an M for mature plastered on the freaking bottom of the game before you even picked it up. It was PG-13. So you nerfed one of the greatest video games of all time. Let's take a look at the movie and see if that horrible choice was justified. The movie is kind of a mixture of the first 2 games' lore, having some things removed and some things added. And yes, there actually is a story to Mortal Kombat for those of you that just think it's punchy, kicky, button mashy, ooh, this guy freezes stuff and this guy screams every order that he has. Get over here! No, that's not exactly what the case is. So, basically, there are chosen warriors from Earthrealm, which is where we live. In this particular case, we have 3. We have Liu Kang, which is a representative of China and the Order of Light. We have Johnny Cage, Hollywood action star, and also being portrayed as a fake because his moves are fake in a movie. So, wait a minute, you guys want this guy to have credibility because he actually beats the shit out of people? He won't have a frickin' job. No stuntman in Hollywood would want to work with him. Give it a frickin' break. And finally, Special Forces operative Sonya Blade, played by...
Oh, hot. Want to touch the hiney.
Anyway, the 3 of these are basically perfect strangers, but the threat of the evil Shang Tsung and his multicolored ninjas, Sub-Zero, Scorpion, and Reptile, invading on Earth all get summoned to partake in Mortal Kombat. They are all brought together by the Highlander. Oops, sorry. Oh, Lord Raiden, played by the Highlander, Christopher Lambert. There can only be one. So, skipping through the story a little bit, there's a character that Sonya is chasing, that's why she gets on the boat. Johnny wants to prove he's not a fake, that's why he gets on the boat, and oh yeah, the main bad guy, Shang Tsung, murdered Liu Kang's brother, so he gets on the boat. As the tournament begins, the three quickly start to realize that this is a fight to the death. This isn't like a, winner gets a trophy, winner gets a belt. No, this is fighting for your life and the lives of everyone else. Okay, moving on, there is a very awesome, vicious fight between Liu Kang and Sub-Zero. Anyway, the problems I still start to have here is there's hardly any blood. I don't get it. The comedy's decent. The action is fair. It's above Power Rangers, but still nowhere near Bloodsport. Anyway, I would still have to say my favorite fight in the movie was between cocky Johnny Cage and Scorpion. But it's also a fight that I have the most problems with. Everybody in the movie so far, powers seem to match their character and so on and so forth. Then they get to Scorpion. He's got this weird little creature thing that comes out of his palm that he does his legendary "get over here" with. Okay, let me just clear this up. It is a spearhead tied to a rope or a chain, depending on which version of the game that you're playing, the aesthetic that the developers chose to use. It is not a Little Shop of Horrors rip-off organic creature that lives in the palm of his hand and has an infinite vine that follows behind it. And what, it smashes against a tree and dies? So he can't use that move anymore? What, does he have to wait for it to grow back? Does it hide back in his hand for a while till it comes back to life? I don't know. It seemed a little bit silly. Anyway, they get teleported from a very cool looking place, which is a bunch of rows of trees, to basically hell. And the fight actually heats up pretty good. We do get to see Scorpion's fatality, even though he doesn't finish off Johnny Cage with it. But there was something else with this fight that kind of threw me off. Is it just me, or is he shouting all of his statements? I mean, literally everything he says is him screaming it.
Welcome! Get down here!
Now, I know his character is famous for saying, "Get over here!" But that doesn't mean everything that he says has to be said that way. I mean, could you imagine if he had a frickin' dinner party and he acted that way? "Hey, Bob, get over here! Would you like another beer? A refill, my dear? Pass the green beans over here!" Then we get to my favorite part of the movie 100%, and that would be Prince Goro. Oh my god, probably the most everlasting and greatest thing that came from this movie that could actually stand the test of time. This was a practical effect dummy. Yes, this thing was not CGI, not one bit of it. This absolute unit of a freaking 4-armed, 8-foot-tall, muscle-bound character was essentially from Jim Henson's Creature Shop. I wonder how he wipes. What? Don't act like the thought hasn't crossed your mind either. It took 4 different people to operate this monstrosity, and to a great difficulty from what I understand. And since they couldn't quite get it to do what they wanted it to do, but it looked so stunning, it kind of hampered and limited its ability of what it could do in fights, so most of the fights ended up becoming quick. But I don't care. This thing looked frickin' awesome. And I even say, in my opinion, it looks better than the fully CG one from the new movie. You give me that one any day. You put the two of them together, 1995 Goro will kick your ass 2021 Goro. I don't care. And the whole shenanigans with his fight versus him and Johnny Cage, priceless comedy. Anyway, skipping towards the end, it comes down to the final showdown between Liu Kang and Shang Tsung for the fate of the world, and I will leave the ending to you to discover. Honestly, up until the new movie had come out, which I yet to have made my final judgment on, out of all the video game movies that were out there, this one stood out because it was near perfect. But all in all, it's a decent watch. It is a product of its time, but I pop this in from time to time just when I want some cheesy, corny nostalgia fighting. It's a good movie and a version you can sit down and watch with your kids. So yeah, I recommend it. And as for my patented 5 out of 5 movie ranking score, I give the original Mortal Kombat 1995 3.5 Goro getting punched in his nuts by Johnny Cage.
Sorry. Damn! That hurt!
Out of 5. Well guys, I want to thank you for joining us back at Steely's Corner. I know this past week has been a little strange. I had to take a little bit of a leave of absence. I'm okay. I'm doing better. I've recharged my batteries. I'm trying to ease myself back into it. I was feeling a little bit of burnout, but that's nobody's fault. I was trying to do too much, too fast. Just needed to take a step back. But with that being said, if you have a friend or anybody out there that deals with depression or just haven't talked to them in a while, reach out. Now, that phone call can save somebody's life. I know it's scary sometimes facing the uncertainties that we have in this world, but look out for each other. Make that phone call. Just say, hey, you could be the difference of somebody having a horrible day or changing the rest of their life. So, with that being said, guys, please like, share, subscribe, so we can all help geek culture come to life and stay alive. I'll see you guys next week with episode 14. Peace. I love you. I got next, guys. Leave this place such a mess when they get done partying. I swear to... What the heck is that? Huh. Where'd this come from? Next week is Mother's Day. Love, Mother. That's weird. Oh my God. Mother.